to do that. It's pointless to pray for somebody when we're asking God to overcome a law that God has already created. But it is wonderful to pray for somebody because they can get a lot of assistance through spirit friends and so forth that God assigns to help them. If you pray for somebody, you can often help them come to realizations they would not have normally had without your love. Because remember, a prayer for somebody is really an expression of your love for them. And the expression of your love for them, it causes many things to occur around them that may not have occurred if they didn't receive your love. Yep. So for that reason, a prayer is very powerful for a person because it's an expression of your love and consideration and concern for their welfare. And as a result of that, it activates other laws in the universe, which are all based around laws of love, which then can assist the person come to a knowledge of what is wrong with them and also what the cause is. And also can even assist them to become cured from the problem if they take a certain course of action. Yeah. So prayer is very, very powerful. And in fact, one of the most powerful tools that you can use to help a person feel loved or feel love from you. We can also pray for the spirits that are with the person, that are influencing the person. Because many times these spirits have not experienced much love while they were on the earth. And where they exist in the spirit world is generally in the first dimension where there isn't much love either. And when we pray for a spirit who's in one of those dimensions, in the first dimension, they feel the love enter them and they wonder who's now interested in them. You know, like there's this feeling of who's interested in me because they have not had many people interested in them before. And so what they do is they then generally try and find out who's interested in them. When you have a feeling of love for another person, if you're a spirit, you can see the feeling coming out of the person and aimed at the person who you have love for. It's an actual feeling that comes out of you. If you're afraid for a person, there's a different coloured feeling that comes out of the person aimed at another person that if you're a spirit you can see with your eyes. Now when you are afraid for another person, the colour is like a grey-black. And if the person on the other end receives your fear, their whole area where they're receiving your fear will go all grey and black. Now, the same applies with love. If you have love for a person and it comes out of you and the other person on the other end receives your love, then the colour of love a lot of times is a rose kind of colour. It's sort of a sort of colour very similar to this colour here, a pinky rose sort of a colour. And that colour comes out of you and wherever it enters the person, you see that area of their spirit body going that colour. Does that make sense? As it enters them. So a lot of spirits are not aware of this in the first dimension because they've never experimented with how energy flows. But there is this flow of energy with every single feeling that you have. There is a flow, a cord that connects you with every single person that this energy is projected at. So if you generally hate men, like it doesn't really matter what man, you just generally don't like them, then there will be this feeling coming out of you of hatred, which is a very dark colour. I'm trying to find a colour to describe it to you as if somebody's wearing. It's hard to find one. It's sort of like a blackish red colour that comes out of you. And if the person is open to receiving your anger, that colour enters them and their whole body in that region where they're open to receiving your anger goes that colour. So it affects them quite badly in their spirit body. So whenever you receive the anger or receive emotions from another person, it does actually physically change your body. It changes your spirit body, firstly. It affects your soul, it changes your spirit body, and it also does have an effect on your physical body as well. If it's a long-term projection of anger that you're receiving over many years, it can totally destroy you, actually. You can die from it, from that projection, coming from another person if you're open to receiving it. And unfortunately for many of us, we are open to receiving all sorts of emotions from spirits. And often they notice, they don't really know how it works, most of them, but they just see, oh, that person is open for me to be angry with them and they'll accept my anger. So they go in, project all of their anger and rage, and the satisfaction they feel is somebody is receiving it. It's changing how somebody operates or acts. Yeah.
If you feel that someone hates you and doesn't like you, if you know that and give love back, what happens to the other person?
Well, firstly, the manufacturing of love is very different from the actual feeling of love. So we can feel that somebody hates us, but while I am open to the reception of their hatred inside of myself, it's going to be very, very difficult for me to actually feel a feeling of love towards them. To actually feel a feeling of love towards them, I would need to release the emotion first that causes me to be open to the projection of their hatred. Now, that emotion might be a feeling of guilt within yourself that you need to release, for example. When you feel guilty, other people notice your guilt, and spirits can notice your guilt, and they can project anger at you, and you'll accept their anger because you already feel guilty. And they'll project their anger based on what kind of guilt you have. So if you have sexual guilt or sexual shame, for example, they will project the anger, but it will be a sexual anger that they're projecting at you, something to do with, the genders and so forth. And if you're open to receiving that, then they'll project it at you and your body will absorb it automatically. Your physical body and your spirit body will absorb it because of the soul. And that's what will occur, unfortunately. So how can you then love them when you're already open to feeling the feeling that they're projecting at you? Firstly, you need to work your way through the openness to feeling the feeling. So let's say you feel shame, then you need to feel your shame and release your shame from within you. Once you release the shame, now you have the capacity to love. Until that time, you just feel terrified about anybody triggering your shame. And love is, you've got to always remember that love is something that has to be felt. It cannot be manufactured. It's not a thought that you can manufacture. Like a lot of people I hear say in the New Age movement, they say, I just send thoughts of love to them. And while at the same time, the feeling that I feel coming from them is rage and anger and all these other feelings. And of course, very little of their thoughts of love ever enter the person because it's not an actual feeling of love.